Mr. Waldman, would you please introduce yourself to the fine ladies and gentlemen of this jury?
Yes, sir. My name's Officer Waldman, Edward Waldman.
Okay, Mr. Waldman, and you said you're an officer. Are you a police officer?
Yes, sir.
And how long have you been a police officer?
I have been a police officer collectively a total of, I believe, around 26 years now.
Okay, in which department are you currently working? Are you working for a current department?
Yes, I'm currently working for the Chicago Police Department.
And how many years have you been there?
I've been in Chicago with the police department about 8 years.
Okay, and in your time there, have you ever experienced any reprimands, sanctions, any punishments at all for conduct while on the job?
No, sir.
So have you had a clean record there?
At Chicago, yes, sir.
Okay, and have you ever been fired from any workforce environment as a police officer?
No, sir. Never been fired. No, not at all.
Okay, all right, and where were you on December the 7th, 1996? Were you on duty? Were you off duty?
Well, I was on duty that night.
Okay, and in your duties, are you a plainclothes policeman or are you an officer who wears a full uniform?
I guess you could say plainclothes. We call that undercover.
Undercover.
At the department,
Okay,
but
fantastic.
Yes.
Undercover.
Yes.
Okay, and were you undercover on the night of December 7th?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and you work alone or do you have a partner?
I have a partner.
And who's your partner?
Officer Levy.
Okay, and were you or Officer Levy driving, or do you drive in a patrol or are you on foot?
We were driving. We usually have a patrol car. I mean,
Okay.
it's a unmarked patrol car. But
So
yes, we do.
So it's unmarked. Were you driving in that unmarked car?
I was riding.
Riding.
Officer Levy, of course, was driving.
And on the night of December 7th, 1996?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. And what were you? Did you see? Do you know who Mr. Ramirez is?
Yes, sir.
Could you identify him?
Yes, sir.
Is he in this courtroom today?
He is.
Could you point him out?
Yes, sir. Do you want me? Yes, right over there, sir.
Thank you. All right. Did you see Mr. Ramirez the night of December 7th, 1996?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question?
Did you see Mr. Ramirez on the night?
Yes.
Okay. And when did you first see him? Was he or anything else?
Well, I mean, I saw his car while
Okay.
on patrol.
And where was his car in relation to your vehicle?
It was behind.
Behind you. Okay. And was he doing anything in his car, or did you just?
He was driving rather wildly, actually.
And by wildly, can you elaborate some more?
Well, he was swerving around, honking, blinking lights.
Okay.
You know, just kind of like honestly, you know, it reminded me of a drunk.
Okay. All right. So he was swerving around. You know what? Was he trying to do anything? Was he trying to accomplish anything by swerving? Was he trying to pass you? Was he trying to do anything?
Look, I'm not quite sure. You know,
Okay.
he was just swerving, and you know, we were just driving along.
Okay.
You know, not really paying attention to him
Okay.
too much.
And did you have any calls that night?
We were out. We were investigating a burglar. We were looking for a suspect who could be on foot, which is one of the reasons why I wasn't paying attention to Mr. Ramirez. We were looking out the window, you know, searching for this potential burglary suspect.
Okay. So was your attention was focused on Mr. Ramirez or on the burglar?
It was focused on the burglar.
On the burglar. Okay. All right. And what happened next?
Well, after he was behind us, we kept driving. You know, we were cruising, you know, pretty slowly along, and we were on the corner of Division in California at one point looking for this burglar, and we began to creep our way up California Street towards Evergreen, and that's where we turned. That's really where we encountered Mr. Ramirez, was on Evergreen Street.
And how did you encounter him?
Well, he drove up behind us, and as we said, was swerving around, and so I told my partner, Officer Levy, who was driving the car, I said, just pull over and let this nut job pass us. You know, I mean, it was getting a little annoying at that point, trying to look for this burglary suspect, and you've got all this noise and stuff going on in the background, and as you can imagine, it's distracting. So
I understand. So this was while you were on Evergreen, you said?
On Evergreen Street.
On Evergreen, and Mr. Ramirez followed you onto Evergreen.
That's correct.
Okay. And did you pull over the car?
My officer.
Your partner?
Yes.
Okay. And what did Mr. Ramirez do?
He pulled up actually kind of in front of us, actually sort of blocking us in, and began yelling various expletives.
Was this in the car, or did he get out of the car?
Oh, initially in the car, but then he did stop his car and get out of the car and continued yelling at us.
Okay, and did you or Officer Levy respond to this?
Yeah, yes. Officer Levy, I mean, as we began to approach the car, Officer Levy, you know, got out of the car for, of course, safety. You know, you don't want to be sitting in a car when someone's running over. I mean, we don't know what his agenda was.
Mr. Ramirez is running over to your car?
Approaching the car rather quickly.
Okay.
Yes.
And did you, or you said Officer Levy, what did Officer Levy do?
He stepped out of the car.
Okay, and what did Officer Levy do at that point?
He yelled out, police, police. You know,
Okay.
with an unmarked car, we're conscientious to try to let people know, you know, we're police here. So he was, I definitely, you know, he yelled police first to see if that would sort of deter the man.
Did he state anything else other than police that you
no, not that I recall.
Okay. And what was Mr. Ramirez doing at this point? Was he? What did he? You said he was yelling expletives. Did he do anything else?
Well, he was you know, running over at at my partner, Officer Levy, and was you know, eventually attacked him really and hit him.
Okay.
Physically assaulted
So Mr. Ramirez physically assaulted Officer Levy.
That's correct.
Okay. And what happened next?
Well, I got out of the car, you know, as I saw him get close, and when I opened the car door and got out, and as I looked back over the roof of the car, I saw Mr. Ramirez there as they were sort of in a scuffle, and I saw him bring out a knife.
You saw a knife?
Yes, sir.
In whose hand? Who had the knife?
Officer, I'm sorry, Mr. Ramirez.
Mr. Ramirez had
the knife in his hand. Yes.
And where was Officer Levy in proximity to Mr. Ramirez?
He was sort of under the Mr. Ramirez was standing kind of over him with the knife up, and Mr. Officer Levy was up against the car at that point.
Officer Levy
So
was
it
up
was in
against
between
the
the car and the car door.
And Mr. Ramirez had his arm raised up.
That's right.
Okay? All right. And did Officer Levy? What was Officer Levy doing? Was he touching Mr. Ramirez? Was he?
Well, they were
away?
struggling, and
Okay.
then you know, Mr. Ramirez stabbed Officer Levy in the shoulder.
You saw him stab.
I saw him stab my partner with the knife in the shoulder.
Okay. And at this, what happened next?
Well, after that, I mean, after the stab, he stabbed him once and brought his hand back up, and I saw Officer Levy was able to get a grip, you know, potentially with his wounded shoulder, maybe not as strong as a grip as he would have liked, but he did have a grip on Ramirez's arm at that point.
He had a grip on Mr. Ramirez's arm, and then what happened next? Did you use any force?
Well, I got out of the car and was walking around in the back, observing the situation, trying to get there as quickly as I could, and, you know, as I saw him bring the knife back up again, I drew my weapon.
Okay. Your weapon being?
My gun.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Thanks. Just clarify.
Yes.
You drew your gun, and
you know, as I drew my gun, Mr. Ramirez was trying to stab my partner again, and as he was trying to stab him again, my partner's grip appeared to be breaking slightly, and so at that point, and only at that point, I did pull the trigger and in an effort to save my partner.
And did you strike Mr. Ramirez?
Yes.
The bullet?
Yes. Mr. Ramirez slumped then to the ground
Okay.
after being shot.
Okay. Thank you. And I just have one further question. Exhibit A here is a knife that was found at the scene of the crime, that alleged to have been found at the scene. Have you ever seen this knife before? Did you see this knife at the scene?
Oh, yes, sir. That seems to be similar to the knife that was. Seems to be the knife that Mr. Ramirez had at the scene of the crime.
And did you ever touch this knife during the course of the
I did not touch the knife. No.
Did you ever see the knife? I mean, did you ever see anyone other than Mr. Ramirez?
No, not until I believe it was Sergeant Sloan who picked the knife up after we had called for help.
And did he introduce it as evidence? Did he pick that up as evidence, or did he pick it up for another purpose?
Well, he picked the knife up, you know, and put it in evidence.
Okay. Did you
in
see any officer? And at the point when Mr. Ramirez had the knife attacking Officer Levy, was the blade out?
The blade was out. Yes.
Okay.
I mean, he stabbed him with the knife.
And did you see any officer close the blade?
No.
Okay. All right. Thank you. No further questions.